We said, well, what if we gave you an entire blockchain trading platform?
Talk about why CleanConnect.ai is really verifiable. It was a source of truth in a really, really noisy data schema otherwise, right?
But we're eventually going to move to this empirical world where you literally are proving it with chemical engineering, mass balance, first principles.
But at the end of the day, I need to produce energy, and I need to have a system in place that allows me to do that and maintain flexibility for whatever I need in the future. That's what Brew Zero does. Direct measurement of combustion devices, direct measurement of methane slip. That's tough, right? And so we're working on a project Vulcan, which we haven't talked about yet, but it's direct measurement technology, direct meter on a combustion stack, on an open tip flare.
AI is essentially the compute is the cost of intelligence is going to zero. So now it's really the cost of energy is directly related to the AI output. And that's it, really. It is energy and AI are now directly linked together.
The Empirical Energy Podcast blows open the silent revolution, rewriting the rules of global energy markets. Measured, verified energy is no longer an alternative. It's becoming the gold standard. We dive deep with the producers, traders, consultants, and renegades driving this seismic shift. Step inside the raw mechanics of how verification and blockchain-fueled trading are dismantling the old systems and creating a future where alternative energy doesn't just compete, it takes over. This is the movement of reshaping energy as we know it, bold, unstoppable, and just getting started. Here is your host, Mark Smith.
Hey everybody, this is Mark Smith, host of Empirical Energy Podcast. I'm here with my co-host and co-founder of CleanConnect.ai, David Conley. Hey, David.
What's up?
Hey, so we're here to talk a little bit about where the market is going in terms of energy. Man, energy is in the news every single day. I mean, I won't date this thing so much, but, recently, I mean, it's just in the topic every day, whether it's Venezuela and energy, whether there's AI and data centers, it's just a big topic. So we're going to hear talk about where we see things going and our part in this whole journey. So I'm going to share a screen because we put a lot of thoughts together around here and we want to be able to explain it. So for us, we are actually introducing a new topic, Empirical.ai, the AI operating system for energy, because we are helping serious energy producers right now. Some of the biggest in the entire world produce energy. And so we have an inside look at what they're actually doing, the plans and the projects that they're using to prepare for this new reality where AI is essentially the compute is the cost of intelligence is going to zero. So now it's really the cost of energy is directly related to the AI output. And that's it, really. It is energy and AI are now directly linked together. So we want to have our part in this, and we're going to share with you 3 case studies from our actual clients who are doing the very thing we're talking about. So a little bit of our history here. And David, let's talk about this because I tried to summarize this, and there's a huge story in the last 5 years. But when we started, we were just sort of stuck in this whole sort of methane mitigation world with a whole bunch of players from planes to satellites to fence line monitors or whatever. And yet we found a unique thing that our clients wanted. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, I think back to 2019, right? When I guess there's probably 60, 70, maybe 100 vendors that were all methane specific, right? And that was a big problem that we solved during that time. And so we would get bucketed into, methane detection with the caveat that our customers never really saw us that way. That was a benefit of using CleanConnect, but I don't think it was ever the driving factor. It was never we need to do this to see methane. It was always about, we need to do this to operate better. And better operations is plus methane and, better marketing. And it was all tied together. I think if there's one thing that we found, it was methane mitigation was a direct result of operations, and operations was funded and driven by market opportunity. And so it was all three of those pillars: sustainability, operations, and marketing, versus just, hey, we need to solve this sustainability problem, right? And we get bucketed into that, and we, had to broaden the scope, and people started to realize that, oh, wait, to solve the whole problem, it took, from the wellhead to the LAC unit, it took a whole bundle of things there, of solutions there to actually make that happen. So anywho, yeah, I mean,
yeah, and
GDC
unfortunately,
was a good one.
Yeah, it was a good one. And, we got some great ROI out of there. And, and I think, from the very beginning, I remember calling you and saying, hey, so what are the things that they're actually doing with this suite that we've done? Because, again, we had this technology, it was EPA approved, best of class, but it was really the bundle of stuff that we did. And then the first principles measurement and prove zero, but it had a real provable ROI. And, after a while, our customers literally started measuring this on a dashboard we gave them.
Yeah. And, they would measure it against like call outs, or, things that are, a lot of people, I mean, I think we're now to the, the general audience, right? If, when we first started, it was early adopters. Now we're kind of like into everybody else that follows the early adopters. And
yeah, they're scaling up with us.
Yeah. They're thinking about it in terms of call outs, or loss of production, loss of, containment. Those types of things are kind of the categories that all of a sudden you start looking at the actions that you get from, I don't know, a visual system, and compare it with the spend on those types of things. You start really chalking up an ROI pretty quickly. So yeah, it was absolutely the bundle for sure.
Yep. And we even talked about this to where we're literally considering changing our name, because when we first started it, we were really going after compliance and stuff. And we even took the name literally, like we were saying, hey, let's monitor facilities to make sure their connections were clean connections, right? That was the name, using AI. But what we discovered, because I would remember calling you all the time, say, hey, so now that we have millions of OGI video measuring this stuff, what's actually leaking? Because when you look at the EPA regs, they just assume everything's random. Like it could be a small leak here and there. And you're saying, no. It's literally 95% can be in these four categories, like tanks overpressuring, cold venting, pumper truck malfunctions, compressor slips, right? It is things that they actually all know about. And the one common element among those are all operations.
Yeah, 100%. It's all operations. I mean, so we're evolving, right? And we're talking about, I guess the thread that kind of tied all that stuff together was, empirical truth. And I think that's something that going back to the last slide just for a second, is talk about why CleanConnect 1 is really verifiable. It was a source of truth in a really, really noisy data schema otherwise, right? Outside of a few other, types of technologies, cameras were trusted, and that's what it came down to. And I think if there's one thing that this company does really well, or that we're doing really well, is making the truth valuable again and making it verifiable. But it's an empirical truth. It's verifiable. You can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it, and it's tied together. Right. I think that's the biggest point I think is important, is tied together with data reconciliation is also the other big topic that we're going to start getting into. But yeah,
and you already mentioned the three areas, right? So what we found is we're helping people in operations, sustainability, and trading. So in ops, they need empirical data to improve operations, right? They need to know what this is. And the more empirical the data they have, whether it's visual, whether it's coming from the actual SCADA data, the more they can fix stuff remotely, RMM using AI. For sustainability, man, they want to put a stake in the heart of emission factors. Those are like the worst things ever, causing all kinds of problems. And now we've given them a multi-certification platform using empirical data. And the trading, same thing. that, and we're going to share actually case studies for all three of these things so that you'll understand more about what we're doing. And so this whole empirical thing we're doing is not just like a future idea. We're going to actually share 3 case studies from real customers doing real things using this empirical measurement and data and operations. So I put these together. This actually came from a presentation. We had our own show. So we have our own Empirical Energy Conference. We're going to do it again in 2026. Very successful. We invited our key clients all together. It was the first time they were all together in the same room. And what was great and satisfying for us, because it's a little nervous, right? When you deal with each customer independently, you can deal with all their problems and issues. But when you put them all together, they have the chance to go and either say, hey, how are you using this system? The interaction between our clients was phenomenal.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and we also got great feedback from our clients saying this was one of the best conferences we ever went to. We love the interaction with our peers and things like this. But Chevron did a great presentation. And so this is actually coming from them. This is the way they're looking at things. And we see this across the board. When there's a merger or acquisition or any kind of thing, there's always pressure to do more with less. Like even right now, as the price of oil and gas come down, hey, our clients still need to produce just as much, and they got to do it more effectively, more efficiently with, better people. Well, not better people, but, augment their staff so they can do more. Well, a typical phone call you might get, I don't know, you could describe it, David, is, hey, an ops guy might call and say, well, I got 400 more sites to manage, but I get 0 headcount.
Yeah. You see that with the M&A, right? The M&A in this sector is crazy. And that happens all the time. Hey, we just bought so and such, and now we have more assets to manage, and I don't get any more people. And how do you do that? And it puts pressure on automation and technology, and ultimately remote operations is a big key part of that for this use case, at least, right? It's being able to say, okay, well, we're going to have omnipresence, right? I'm going to be able to have an operator log in and inspect a facility whenever they need to. We're going to be watching it all the time and let them know when important things happen. So it's always that shift of going from reactive to responsive. It was one of the big topics of this, and being able to respond to events in priority versus reacting to things that have gone on too long. We have other stories on the other side of that where maybe people didn't look fast enough or take the video seriously, and things happen, right? And now all of a sudden you're reacting when you could have responded. So it's all about how they manage it. But yes, the pressure to do more with less was a big topic of this talk. And it starts there. I think that's the foundation of Empirical AI. It starts with, okay, I need to know the truth of what's going on my facility all the time. Be able to answer that question.
And if we can do that with remote monitoring and management, meaning because you see that safety gap, right? If they're still relying on putting a guy in a truck and sending him out to a site, literally that trip to the site becomes one of the biggest safety deals. And if you can eliminate the need to put a guy in a truck and send him out there, that is a huge safety thing. So what this thing that we created, which again, we thought, hey, we'll do this automated way of doing, LDAR, has turned into the integrated operations center. Like we're literally integrated in an AI data, their operations center. And so now they can get in all of their alerts, not just gas leaks, but liquid leaks, fires, smoke, PPE, like everything all on one single dashboard. And I think you've seen this as you meet with the clients regularly, David, how they move from this was an interesting point, a solution to be like, no, this is the platform. This is the one area where they can log into and manage a site. And now we're getting to the point where like anything new that they want, they're coming to us first, or they want us to integrate some of their solutions so they don't have more things to log into to manage a single site.
Yeah, we're seeing a pickup in this middle space, right? Between, I call it IoT or sensors or, whatever you want to call it. We predominantly use cameras, but we use a lot of other sensors too, right? For Proof Zero, and they're already existing on the facility. But there's this middle space between the physical reality of what's happening in the digital, engine behind it. I'll call it orchestration, right? And that's one of the big pushes this year for CleanConnect is, okay, this orchestration layer, bring your own camera, bring your own AI, and we can orchestrate that for you. We've seen big companies put a lot of money into, having to build their custom apps and, build all this because they have so much, right? They have so much. And you're kind of doubling up on work whenever we have so much, right? Because in order to deliver our product, we had to go build all that. We had to build orchestration layers. We had to build really tight security, and we had to build, model deployment and CI/CD pipelines, and all of those things already exist within the CleanConnect solution. So one of the big pushes for us is to be able to open that up and say, okay, we have this operating system that sits in between the physical reality and the digital layers that you want to extract, the digital data that you want to extract from that. And that's another piece of what we're talking about. But that ultimately becomes the IOC, right? The Integrated Operations Center is that piece of middleware, I guess was the right word, but it's that piece of orchestration that has to take place to ensure that all of those things are happening and lighting up what they're supposed to light up, and they're operating effectively, and all of that good stuff. So yes, we've absolutely integrated and become a platform for sure.
This kind of goes to, solving that problem, which is before, it says here in like this third box, field personnel dispatch only when verified. And there was nothing more frustrating to a field guy is to be sent out. Hey, we got an alarm, and they go out and they look and they can't find something. And they come back and say, that was a false alert. These guys really want us to nail using AI as best we can, and then give them like our live look feature to say, no, we know exactly what's going on before we send someone out. So I think the other thing that was fascinating for us is, that the other presenter from Chevron had helped us create this entire KPI dashboard. So they didn't just say, hey, anecdotally, they had literally proof points, little things that they measured for call outs reduced, other things like that, loss of containment avoided, avoiding super emitter events, things like that. So I was fascinated by that part of the discussion as well. Right.
Yeah.
And
loss of production, right? Loss of production events are a big deal. And that's their number one driver, right? You don't want to lose any production. Loss containment's obviously also really important. But yeah, we saw that for kind of firsthand, and they put that together to look at the impact, I think. One of the big question marks that often comes up for people that are maybe thinking about their digital transformation or thinking about how to approach it is, how do I model the revenue side of it, right? And these guys did a great job of showing the numbers, and that's something we can help with as well, because it gets pretty crazy. It gets like, that's wild, that's a lot of money. So that's what we're here for, right? And so it's an important piece.
And the other thing that happened too is, Chevron in particular has given us ideas for new products. So for example, they said, well, wait, you're using, Promax and stuff. Hey, are you using that Promax optimization feature? We're like, for production optimization? So anyway, we're going to be announcing soon production optimization. So it'll be a whole new way of helping our clients generate more revenue, save expenses on their actual production. So, it's just going to keep with this theme, provable ROI and stuff. So again, I think the other thing that we heard from our clients is they love the data integration. The thing that we see before CleanConnect versus post is lots of data silos. HSE has no access to SCADA. Ops owns this data over here, but doesn't do anything with environmental or sustainability. The traders, most of the ops guys they don't even know who the traders are, right? So you have all of these disparate sets of data, and to have a data integration, a data-driven integrated ecosystem is new for them, but pretty exciting.
Absolutely.
The second box over was sustainability. So Pure West, they came to us and primarily they were saying, hey, we're in this commodity world. No matter what we do to prove how clean we produce, we're just treated the same as everybody else. We have a particular buyer in Europe that's willing to pay us a premium, if we can get certified. And at the time we met these guys, they were trying to integrate like 5 to 8 different systems and just hitting a wall. And we came in and one by one, we didn't tell them, but they would go, wait a second, with your unified platform, I guess I don't need this thing or this thing and this thing. And eventually we just handled that for them. But, they and a lot of other clients, they want the proof, right? So why we call our system Proof Zero, but they just had no way of doing that. And so we're going to tell about how we solved that problem for them.
Yeah, this is the first time we saw like the spinal cord form, right? I think we had an inkling early on because I think we started on Proof Zero, with Triple Crown probably in 2022?
Yeah.
So we had been working on this for a long time before Pure West. And it was about, hey, there's data that exists now. And with the right AI tools and with the right modeling, you might be able to do a lot of what we're doing with sensors without sensors, predicting things and, all that kind of good stuff. And we modeled it after what at the time was S&P, right? S&P's MPC was kind of like the data set, the variable list that we were going to model it after. But in order to get the variable list, you had to go to the source. Like there was no way to fake that and do it right and actually restore trust and make trust valuable. And so, but yeah, fast forward, right? And that's exactly what happened. We, Pure West early adopted. Since then, they've, I think 7 disparate systems, maybe five to 7 disparate systems, all kind of rolled up into one. Now doing monitoring, measurement, reporting, verification, and now trading, right? So MMRVT, all reconciled, and the flexibility of the multi-certification. So depending on what their buyers want, they can go from ISCC to MIQ or, whatever their flavor of the year is. Because I think certifications come and go. We see a lot of Trustwell. See that with some of these other ones where, they matter and then they don't. And so I think as an oil and gas operator, you're just kind of saying, look, whatever the way the wind blows, fine. But at the end of the day, I need to produce energy. And I need to have a system in place that allows me to do that and maintain flexibility for whatever I need in the future. That's what Proof Zero does.
Yeah. And by, empirically measuring with direct measurement, indirect measurement, and using mass balance, this first principles approach turns out that is the future. Everything is headed toward that. So we're moving away from this sort of spreadsheet import of emission factor world that we're currently in over to empirical. And, I'm pretty passionate about this because I do think that, this is even geopolitical, that people are making these claims saying, hey, my gas is cleaner than your gas, totally on factors. They're just total guess stuff that everyone knows is bogus. But we're eventually going to move to this empirical world where you literally are proving it with chemical engineering, mass balance, first principles, and, it's going to even the playing field. So we're excited to be part of that and actually driving this. Already the stuff we've done by getting Pure West certified with 14064-3, 14067 with mass balance. I know that the other certification bodies like EUMR, OGMP, and others are now raising the bar on their own certification because of the work we've done. We literally proved it could be done. So
absolutely.
So it's what's happening now is Pure West has gone from a place where they're like every other operator where they sold gas to a midstream operator and that was that, to now where they're being approached by hyperscaler data centers, Gunvor super interested in partnering with them and combining RNG with ENG. And it's given them huge opportunities that they didn't have before. So it's really opening up a whole lot of business opportunities, which is exciting. And it really introduced this whole multi-certification, multi-EAC thing. Out of this, we created this EAC as an NFT on the blockchain as a birth certificate for energy. And this thing is becoming an extremely flexible thing because we can now get this certified with ISCC and we can combine
Well, we solved the data problem,
Yeah.
right? So at the end of the day, all of this is a data problem. And so we first started with Pure West, for example. I think they had 3,400 wellheads or something like that. So mid-size operator and a couple hundred, 300 facilities or so. And, that was a daunting, internally thinking, and I can't speak for them, but I can imagine that's a relatively daunting task to say, okay, I'm going to take every single one of my facilities, every tag, every valve, every meter, every pressure sensor, and I'm going to map it and be able to read those data, attributes in real time or, on a daily basis and actually run the first principles on my real time data. I mean, that is a huge project because there's no data standards, right? There's no tag standards. Every operator tags their stuff differently with their SCADA groups. And, all of that is pretty custom. There's nothing about, and that was one of the biggest challenges we had going into this was like, how do we scale this to actually solve the data problem? And that's where the real benefit came from, because once you have that solved, the rest of this becomes printing variables. Okay, I need XYZ variables for this report versus the other one. And so that's what this has become, is a list of variables tied to a molecule on a time scale that can be queried against. And those queries become whatever certification we need at that time for audit. It can be, and it's auditable. So this is a really cool product, but end goal is the multi-certification, right? But the journey to get there starts with solving data problems first. And that's where the magic happens. When you can solve the data problems, smooth all that out, and start seeing that results come in, now all of a sudden we're querying the same data differently for different things. And that's empirical truth. Whenever you have that empirical truth built, it becomes a really nice moat for an operator to say, whatever way the wind blows, I'm ready, right? And that's different. And so I think that's an important point to make, is that it's agnostic to the output. Whatever the output is, it needs to be, can be, because the data problem solved. And that's empirical AI, right? That's the next step. That's the evolution that we're taking. And as we go through that process, I mean, you see all these other problems that pop up in the empirical data set. One of the big ones is combustion. Direct measurement of combustion devices, direct measurement of methane slip. That's tough, right? And so we're working on a project Vulcan, which we haven't talked about yet, but we'll talk about it. It's direct measurement technology, direct meter on a combustion stack, on an open tip flare. And we're taking real time measurements on a, hour by hour, every 15-minute basis, being able to consolidate that into the data set and being able to reconcile all that autonomously. That's where we're headed, right? And so that's what Empirical AI is. That's what Prove Zero set us up to do, and to do uniquely, because, we're the only ones that did it. We're the only ones that did the monitoring piece with the first principles piece. And I don't know if it's the audacity or what, and tie those two things together all under one platform. We're the only ones there. And so I was stuck in an identity crisis for a long time, saying, okay, are we a monitoring company? Are we a data products company? Are we, what company are we? That's when I decided, we're an empirical AI company, and that's where we're headed. So anywho.
And this, of course, because we did this for Pure West, it opened up a new opportunity to partner with Gunvor, right? Well, $130 billion a year energy trader. And for them, they're out there trying to, like everybody else, pitching the AI, the hyperscaler, the AI data centers. And so there are companies like Microsoft who have these corporate goals to be net zero, but at the same time, they got to buy an insane amount of nat gas to power these new data centers. All of them do, right? That's become the number one. Nuclear will come, but today, the only thing that's 24/7 and readily available is nat gas. So how do you do it? You can't. I remember the first time we went to Gunvor, they said, man, we'd have to buy all the RNG, renewable natural gas, in the entire world to meet some of the demand. We can't do it. We need to come up with some new blended product. So we came up with a new feedstock blended product along with Gunvor that blends empirical natural gas and empirical renewable natural gas into a blended product. And now we're actively pitching the data centers with this, which we're getting.
And it's so important to know why the ENG matter, right? And I mean, it's funny you say that because like Solar Daddy himself, Elon Musk, right, goes and buys what? Natural gas
plant,
process plant to build around his data center, right? Or to build his data center around natural, yes. And so you're talking about the dude who is the solar guy says, you know what? I need natural gas for this. I need natural. And so it's not going away. Why does ENG matter? And it has a lot to do with their LCAs and how they report and what commitments they make. But at the end of the day, they can achieve significant carbon reductions through empirical natural gas or empirically measured natural gas. That's what we're talking about here is on an LCA achieving those reductions with insets. And I think that's just an important note to understand. That's what that data product that I was talking about in the last slide, that's what it unlocks. It unlocks value for not the producer, but also the guys downstream, right? The guys buying it because they need that. You know, you're talking about the tailwinds. In the US, we've seen a bit of a drop off with the administration change, but globally, it's still very, very prevalent. You can look at Gignal and what they're doing in Japan and Singapore, CBAM, and it's just it matters, right? And it's not going to go away. I think it's not going to go away. And so,
right,
CI score is important for every
and
product, not just natural gas.
So I think we went and we asked the common question I always ask is, hey, how can we give you Gunvor the easy button? And they explained how an actual RNG deal is put together, and it's 6 weeks of just managing a bunch of these spreadsheets. And we said, well, what if we gave you an entire blockchain trading platform? So we did. We've created an entire thing. We can take these EACs that are certified, allow them to combine them, put them on the blockchain, and deliver those to an actual buyer. And so it strips out all the complication, makes it easy, and it future-proofs them as well because every single attribute is tied back to the molecule, right? So we're future-proofed. If someone were to go, I need to deliver our product and get it on an LNG ship and send over there, we can account for every molecule on there. And that's the system that we built. So anyway, it's reliable, unlike, solar and wind because it's natural gas and whatnot. But it gives them the same decarbonized inset and, it's way more affordable. So just kind of wrapping up, we've shown specific proof points of people who are using our Empirical AI platform today in operations, sustainability, and trading. So look, if anybody's interested, I'd love to have, David or I or both of us, love to meet with you. We can really dive into your particular problems and your use cases. And we can help you figure this stuff out as we've helped out other large clients, some of the biggest in the world. So
absolutely,
we are problem solvers. That's that's baked into our DNA.
It's the bane of our existence is that we can't help ourselves. That's what happened here, right? Is we started with, visual AI, and then, the next problem came up. Oh, well, I'm getting all this data. What do I do with it? So, well, I don't know. What are you supposed to do with it? Oh, well, I have these emissions inventories. Okay, well, let's figure that out. And so we go figure out emissions inventories, and I need to get them certified. And then, I need to, my trading desk needs to get access to this market over here. It's like, okay, well, all of that stuff is tied together to solve the problem from the beginning to the end. It requires all of it. And I think that's an important piece to know, an important differentiator. And so I think we're the only ones there that say, you know what, we'll do it all. We'll do all of it. And so, I'll leave you with that, Mark. It's great.
Yeah, it's great,
man.
Great discussion, talking about the future. And, look, we could talk a whole nother session about all the future stuff we got in the pipeline. But anyways, it's great. Travel down memory lane, but also talking about the future. And yeah, look forward to talking with anybody who's watching this.
Absolutely.
All right.
The Empirical Energy Podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.